Hello everyone, my name is Clay, and welcome to another episode of Terminally Nerdy's Indie Impressions, the show where I take a look at independent and non-AAA titles as well as niche titles, giving you my first impressions after at least 2 hours of playtime, because if it's good enough for the major retailers for refunds, it's good enough for me. Today, I got a key from Evolve PR for the purposes of this review, and we're going to be looking at Fell Seal Arbiters Mark, specifically the Switch port. This was a Kickstarted game that came out a while ago on Steam, and then just this past August it came out on the Switch, and Evolve was kind enough to give me a key for it. This is a strategy RPG, and as far as I can tell, the story is you're playing as one of these Arbiters, and in this world, the Arbiters are basically like judges from Judge Dredd. They're judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one, and they answer to a council of 7 people called the Immortals. The 7 Immortals were basically these people that sealed away this great evil, and in doing that sealing, they became immortal. And they basically started ruling over the land, trying to keep everything kosher. But then they realized that they couldn't do that on their own. They started the Arbiters, and it's been a fair amount of time. It doesn't really specify how long, but at this point, the Arbiters are starting to become kind of corrupted. And you're playing this specific Arbiter, and I want to say her name was Kyrie, who is very much Miss, I will do everything by the book 100% of the time. You and her crew go on sort of an adventure, and the game opens up with a very, very clear tutorial, which also doubles as the story setup. You basically beat up this noble who commits murder right in front of your eyes. He seems to know something. You take him back to your chapter house, and then he gets released by the Immortals and made into what they call a marked. Essentially, one of the Immortals has decided he's going to retire, so they have basically sort of like a contest. Each of the 7 Immortals pick a person to become a marked, and the first marked to basically survive the pilgrimage will become the next immortal. Like, the immortal will basically pass their power down to the marked, they retire and I guess die, and the marked becomes the immortal. And as the story progresses, you get some intrigue, some faction building, and stuff like that. The story's actually really interesting and probably the best part of this game. Additionally, the game is very pretty. I love the art style in this game. I like the cartoony style. I love the customization options you get when you make new characters for your party. Much like Final Fantasy Tactics, you can go to any city and recruit new units. But unlike Final Fantasy Tactics, you get complete control over how they look. You can pick hairstyle, hair color, skin color, what outfit they're wearing, whether or not you want them to wear their class outfit or you want them to wear a different outfit. You can pick the color of the outfit. You can pick facial hair. You can put accessories. You can change that at any time. You also get to pick their portrait for combat and their name. You have complete control over how the characters for your team are built, and I love that. Additionally, the actual class system is very reminiscent of Final Fantasy Tactics, and I enjoyed it as well. You basically will have a primary class, which will define your starting abilities and your 2 first passive abilities. Then you can pick any other class the character has unlocked as a secondary. The secondary will not get XP. The secondary will only give you access to the stuff that they've learned for that class. And then you have a spot for 2 passives of any sort that you've learned from anywhere, and 1 sort of reaction ability. So for example, you could equip a character with the Mercenary main class, which will give them 2 passives if you've unlocked those passives from the Mercenary class. Then you could give them a secondary class of, say, Knight, and then you could give them a passive from the Mender class, a passive from the Wizard class, and then a reaction ability from any other class, like, let's say, the Mender again. And that is how you kind of build your party. Every character can do this, including the main cast. The main cast start out as basics, but eventually Kyrie unlocks a special class for her. And from what I understand, some of the other characters have special classes for themselves. Additionally, your characters, even if they're not in the fight, will gain ability points. They gain, like, benched ability points. And every character will gain ability points for their main class. And then, depending on the classes that were present in the fight, everyone will get a little bit of ability points for those. So, like, if you have somebody who's a knight participate in the fight, every other character will get some knight ability points, even if they don't have the class equipped. which is nice. It lets you kind of build and modify. Like, I had a character who was a wizard mender, and then I had a mender wizard, and that way they both gained points in both classes, because I was trying to unlock some stuff. But there are some negatives to this game. First, the music and sound effects are forgettable. I honestly couldn't even begin to tell you. I have no interest in listening to the music tracks in this game. They are pure background noise. I could have muted it and put on anything else and it would have been perfectly fine. Unlike even Valda's Story or any of the other games I've played recently where I might want to actually listen to the soundtrack outside of the game, I don't hear. Additionally, the animations are very, very basic. The walking cycle is stiff as hell. It looks like it's missing frames. Spell effects are really hit or miss. Like, the wizard effects are kind of cool, but the mender effects, which is your healer, are kind of boring. I tried out the Plague Doctor. That was kind of boring, but then the Alchemist, or Alchemagi, however they make it, that one was kind of cool with how the shields look. But there's no indicators on the actual sprites of what buffs or debuffs anybody has, which I would have liked. I would have liked little symbols over their head to say, that guy's poisoned, this one's got a defense buff. You have to actually, like, highlight the guy and look at their unit card. The UI is good, but kind of messy. Like, at the top of the screen, in the footage here, you're going to see this huge line of portraits. Well, that's the initiative tracker. It tells you what order everybody goes in, but it doesn't have names. So the enemies all look freaking identical, and it's real hard to be like, okay, well, it's that guy or that guy. Which one is it? They all look alike. And probably my biggest complaint here is balance. So a good strategy RPG feels like a chess match, because you're on a board, usually squares, you're moving your pieces around and trying to outplay your opponent. And in a game like, let's say, Final Fantasy Tactics, which this is clearly emulating Final Fantasy Tactics with its design, including even, like, the class wheel. Like, seriously, this emulates FF Tactics. In FF Tactics, early on, you're going to be fighting on mostly flat plains with some minor elevation changes and maybe some objects that block you. And as you get further in the game and unlock new classes with maybe, say, jumping abilities or good ranged attacks, you'll start dealing with elevations, you'll start dealing with enemies above you or below you, you'll start dealing with, terrain. This game, within the third stage, immediately starts throwing terrain problems at you. But the problem is the enemies always start on top, they're always got the high ground, you're always at the bottom, and you don't have people who can get to them easily, so you end up having to spend turns walking around trying to find your way up to the enemy while the enemy peppers you. It got so bad in one fight, I about just turned the game off. I was going to say it was like stage 5 or 6. I about just stopped playing. I was about ready to go, this is as far as I'm going, because while the enemy isn't killing me, because of how magic works, it was just really frustrating. Also, real quick, the way magic works, you will not start with your full MP bar. You will start with some MP, and every turn, every character who has MP will gain MP until they fill up. This means you cannot easily run out of MP unless the enemy is draining you. This also means that you need to kill the enemy healers first, because they can basically heal infinitely, and it's real frustrating. Another piece that frustrated me was the injury system. So I like that this game does not have permadeath. You can't lose anybody. However, if a character falls in battle, they get an injury for every time they fall. Injuries can stack. You can actually get multiple injuries on a character in a single fight if you res them and then they die again. And the enemy AI will immediately target resed units. So don't res units unless they're really far away from the enemy and the enemy can't get to them, because they will kill them again. Every time. Injuries give you negative 10% to all your stats, and the only way to heal from injuries is to be out of fights a number of times equal to the injuries. So if you have 2 injuries, that unit needs to be out for 2 fights. So the best way to do this is if you got injured units, go to an area with really low level enemies, fight a patrol, because you can always just fight battles at will, which I like. Kill all the enemies so that way the injury counter drops, and hope that you don't generate more injuries. So, I mean, at one point I was literally just running through the lowest level zone I could find just to get some of my units back up. I mean, it was nice, but it was annoying because at the same time, all these low-level enemies seemingly hit me just as hard as enemies equal to my level. I don't know if there's like a balance problem there. Overall, the game is fairly rough, and probably my biggest concern is it's $30 on Switch. I don't think it's worth $30 personally. I'm glad I didn't spend $30 on this game. I played it for about 3.5 hours and I'm done. I want a game like this, but I want it with some more polish to it. This game has some issues to it that I just can't get past, which is sad because I really like the story to it, and I want to see what's going on, but I don't want to keep playing it. I don't want to deal with every fight me starting on the back foot at the bottom of a hill trying to find my way up the hill because the game has decided, the designers have decided that they're just going to make everything really annoying. And it's not like it's a challenge. I beat every level on the first try. It's just aggravating. So, keep that in mind. Fell Seal is available on Switch and on Steam. Price is $30. Whether you want to do it or not, I mean, it's up to you. Just take a look at the footage. Just bear in mind, it's gonna get frustrating. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Hey there, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and a special thank you to all my patrons who are listed over there on the right hand of the screen. If you want to get your name in those credits, feel free to check it out at patreon.com/terminallynerdy. And hey, be kind to each other and stay nerdy. Thanks.